All wins mean something, as you mentioned, going against basically second-tier Western Conference teams. We talk about Sacramento, you talk about Seattle, two teams didn't make the playoffs last year, won't make the playoffs this year, but at the end of the trip, you got the Utah Jazz, you got the Los Angeles Lakers. That's what makes games like tonight very important for the Boston Celtics to come out, establish themselves on the road, and find a way to come out with a win.
And no matter where you win them, 23-3. Sounds nice. Pretty mind-blowing stuff for the Boston Celtics. Much more to come here on this edition of NBA Fast Break. On the way, Jason Kidd prefers giving to receiving all year long. We'll show you where his generosity has gotten him on the all-time assist list. The Hawks flying like they haven't done this century. Details of a modest mark Atlanta hadn't seen since '99. Was the man who once stepped into Michael Jordan's spot in the Bulls lineup, moves over to Scott Skiles' spot on the bench. The Pistons have been very, very good. The Nets very bad at home. Advantage, Flip Saunders and Detroit. Pistons up by 3 early. Chauncey Billups thieving. Tayshaun Prince going to take care of business on the other end. It's a 5-point Detroit lead.
See, the thing that makes the Pistons great is that they do it on both ends of the floor.
Jason Kidd's been doing it a long time. Sees Jefferson down low, sandwiched between 5 Pistons defenders. How do you get that in there?
It's like Tom Brady hitting that slot receiver at the goal line, Matt. It was tight in there.
Nice. And with that, historic assist. Kidd's 6th on the all-time list. You'll see it in a moment. He passed Gary Payton. Prince to Rasheed Wallace there for the dunk. Pistons up by a dozen already. Hamilton, he's been doing that a long time. Off the screen, knocks it down. Hamilton again. How about Hamilton off the screen again? Let's go ahead and call that. Little curl, step out, knock down. Easy. 22 for him. Pistons by 18 on the road. They've won 6 in a row. 13 of their last 15. They're 13-2 against the Eastern Conference, and for whatever reason, the Nets cannot win in New Jersey. They're 6-11 at home. The good news, as we mentioned, Jason Kidd passed Gary Payton to move into 6th on the all-time assist list. He had 13 of them on Wednesday night. Next up is the man across the river, Isaiah Thomas, just more than 9,000. Pacers and Hawks, one of 2 games on Wednesday night featuring winning teams. Joe Johnson of the Hawks chance for an historic Atlanta sweep. With a pass to Anthony Johnson on the post, Joe Johnson swings it to Anthony Johnson.
Joe Johnson, a true underrated superstar in this league, can play 3 positions, shoot the 3, drive to the basket, and pass as well as any 6'8" guy in this league.
And to prove it, he had 26 points and 11 assists in the second quarter. Marvin Williams, no. Watch Jermaine O'Neal staying with it. Comes from all the way over there to block Joe Johnson's shot. And the Pacers in transition. Jim O'Brien has put the pace back in the Pacers. There they go. Tinsley at 16. Pacers up by 4. Second half. Hawks up 7. Josh Smith, the game developing.
And Josh Smith goes.
Jay Smooth down on the post, turning over that right shoulder, using that left hand for that jump hook. If he develops that, his game is going to be growing every day.
Look at Zaza Pachulia with the steal and running the break.
You got a guy named Zaza leading the break, you got a good chance to win.
Pacers down 6, make it 3. Troy Murphy knocks down the tray. Mike Woodson incredulous. Under 6 to go. Hawks up 3. Joe Johnson, Anthony Johnson. Hawks up 6 and feeling it. Off the miss, here come Atlanta. Marvin Williams with the finish. 2 of his 14. Hawks up by 10, and they're feeling it. Smith on the post. Ball game.
Josh Smith has really come into his own this year. He's much more consistent, and it's a young, athletic, fun team to watch.
Folks, it is the Hawks' first 5-game win streak. 5. We're not talking 10. We're not talking 15. We're talking a 5-game win streak. It's the first for them since 1999. They have their 15th win of the season exactly 1 month earlier than they did last year. All right, Scott Skiles out. Pete Myers, the man who once replaced Michael Jordan in the lineup in Chicago. The coach for the night, at least. They got to face a world champion team minus Manu Ginobili resting this sprained ligament in his index finger. Unfortunately for Chicago, Tony Parker was available.
Put people on skates all night long. Just relentless attack mode for Tony Parker.
Parker posting.
And the thing I love about Tony Parker is he plays to win. When we talk about top-tier point guards in this league, please mention Tony Parker's name.
Okay. Tony Parker. I'll mention it. Spurs on the run. Parker.
Oh, wow. First of all, that's not fair to Joe Smith's knees at this stage of his career.
Spurs up by 18, and the Bulls offensively, Tim, they have been terrible all season long, and that continued.
Well, pretty much the ball stays on the perimeter every possession. They don't have a single guy on their roster that you can send down to the block, say catch the ball and draw a double team. This is the kind of shot selection that you're forced to take all night because San Antonio is going to press up jersey to jersey out on the perimeter and force you to beat them another way. Chicago just does not have enough weapons to do that.
On the other end, Ime Udoka for 3. Spurs up by 14. Later, Ime Udoka. Other corner. Knocks down another 3. Spurs win it by 15. Udoka had 12. Worst shooting team in the league. As you mentioned, the Bulls shot just 41%. San Antonio, 10-0 when Parker scores 22 points or more. As for the Bulls, Pete Myers is not the long-term solution in Chicago. In fact, he's not even the permanent, if there is such a thing, interim coach. John Paxson, the general manager in Chicago, says he's not going to hire a permanent coach till season's end and hasn't yet even named an interim coach for the rest of the season. What do you make of the way they're going about this in Chicago?
Well, first of all, you can take Scott Skiles, Pete Myers, Jim Boylan, John Wooden. I don't care who comes in and coaches this team. The first thing that you have to do is you've got to appeal to Ben Wallace to find that energy source because, to me, that's the key to everything. This team, as I've already pointed out, is going to live on the perimeter. Their margin for error is very small offensively. Defensively, you need Ben Wallace to be back there playing with a high level of energy and the emotional leadership that you brought him in there to provide. If he does that, the young guys are going to fall into place. Ben Wallace, for whatever reason, fell out of favor with Scott Skiles, wasn't a big fan of his coaching style. His energy level and his body language have been poor this year. That team feeds off of this. They're not good enough to get by with what they have if he's not a big factor in games. Jalen, he spent too many quarters this year where you didn't know he was on the floor. Whoever comes in has to address that situation first with Ben Wallace.
Yes, he did. And when you talk about Chicago, we always gave them credit for being the baby Bulls. Well, grow up right now. Okay, Luol Deng, we need you to be consistent every night. Ben Gordon, we need you to step up and knock down shots in game winners like you were doing last season. Kerr Heinrich, shoot a higher percentage. Get your assist to turnover ratio up. Drive and kick. As you saw on the tape, the Bulls are dribbling around the perimeter, but if you're a perimeter-oriented team, you have to drive and penetrate the ball and kick it out to the open player. They're not sharing the ball. They're not getting high percentage shots, and that's not fun basketball to play or to watch.
What is the message to the players when, as management, you're hiring an interim coach in December?
Well, it's a tough situation, really. At first, it might be a breath of fresh air because it looked to me a little bit like they had tuned Scott Skiles out. So your first attitude when you show up at the arena with a new coach is, like we said earlier, substitute teacher time. You're going to play a little bit more loose, a little bit more relaxed. But when you know for a fact that guy's probably not going to be there, it kind of changes your perspective a little bit. I understand what Chicago's saying, though. You want to take a look at every available candidate, and you can't do that until the off-season. Right now, you can only hire guys that are sitting at home not coaching.
And the gift and the curse of Scott Skiles is he's tough as nails, which is good when you're trying to kick the guys in the butt to take the extra step. It's not good when sometimes the players need you to put your arm around them and tell them things are going to be okay.
It's unbelievable, the turn of events in Chicago. This was a team a lot of folks thought would win the division, maybe contend for the East. I thought they'd be the #1 seed.
Biggest disappointment in the league so far this year, without question.
All right, much more ahead as we continue on NBA Fast Break. Still to come, Isaiah Thomas promised changes, and Wednesday night he delivered those changes to his lineup. His Knicks faced a Magic team trying to change its recent ways after a hot start. Who changed for the better? We'll show you. It's what we do.